What is up YouTube, it's Danny Viner here. I'm back once again with another Nerf opening video, and following up from our last video, we're going to open yet another one in the Hyper series. This time we're going to open up the Nerf Hyper Rush-40. The Rush-40 is a 40 round capacity top priming pistol. Although despite apparently being able to hold 40 rounds, it comes with 10 less than it says it can hold. Unlike the last video in which we looked, of course, at the Mach 100, which of course was battery operated flywheel powered, this time we have one that is spring powered, in which you would then prime the top of the blaster as you would an actual pistol, and it will then load and fire a single shot. One of the noticeable things I've seen in the Hyper line is that they all seem to be hopper fed blasters. The Rush-40 is hopper fed, the Mach 100 is hopper fed, and all the others that are apparently available are also hopper fed blasters. How this will affect the feeding of this particular spring powered blaster remains to be seen, and the only way we can find out is by getting it out. So let's snap it out, shall we? Out of the box itself we have of course the main blaster itself, the Rush-40, 30 Nerf rival rounds, your protective eyewear, which I have not taken out because I still got some from my last packet, and your usual unwanted instructions that I will put in my back pocket for safekeeping. Looking at the Rush-40 itself, it is, as you would expect, a pistol, and it's quite a chunky sized pistol, I have to say. It kind of reminds me a little bit of another rival blaster, which I think this was inspired by, known as the Kronos. Although noticeably this thing does have a slight advantage over the Kronos, as this has of course a maximum 40 round capacity. Now let that sink in for a minute everybody. This is a pistol that holds 40 rounds. In a sidearm pistol that you could potentially get a holster for. That is impressive. Located on the blaster are noticeable rival style tack rails to store your rival round holders that you can buy separately, one on the top, one underneath, one on the side, and even one directly underneath this little carrier here. I don't know why, but there it is. Also, I have to give props that, much like the previous blaster, the the Mach 100, it too is also decaled on the other side, so props there, Hasbro. Located on the left side is the trigger safety, so obviously once it's down you cannot squeeze the trigger. Safety up, it's released, you can officially squeeze the trigger. So another thing to remember about the rival series. Located on the top here, this blue part which flips upwards, is your hopper opening part. This is to open up the hopper, and is inside there you would load up your rounds ready to fire. So we will get this loaded up shortly so we can test fire this. And with that we have now fully loaded the blaster with our 30 hyper rounds, which I was honestly surprised I didn't know they were all going to fit in there, but they actually fit in there quite well, and there's a little bit of space still in there left over. So now that we've got the Rush-40 fully loaded up, let's test her out. And here we are again, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, I've set the cans up slightly different than usual, as this time I'm going to go for accuracy over just bursting the rounds absolutely everywhere, because considering the power that these hyper rounds can perform, yeah, let's just say I want to try and be a bit more accurate this time around outside of the usual firing. So I'm going to prime it and prime it back forwards like so. So make sure you load the rounds up. I think because I've got so many rounds in here, priming it forwards can be a little bit tricky, as I've actually tried to prime this a few times before, even just to get the hang of it, and it does occasionally lock up. That's mostly probably because of all the rounds loaded up into the actual hopper itself. So with that, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to start firing on the cans. So we'll try and go for the ones in the actual box itself. Okay, I missed that. Okay, we got one, although granted it was a recoil. Shakes up a little bit. Yeah, getting the actual priming of this is a little tricky. I think it's just because there's so many rounds in it, because I'm trying to prime it forwards and it kind of locks up a little bit. I don't know if this is a problem with my one, but I'm sure it'll get worked out in a little bit. Okay, that one missed the cans and came back and hit me in the leg. That's better. Okay, we've maybe got a cannon. Oh my. Oh my. The round literally pierced the cardboard. It almost went. Okay, I reset it. Let's try a few more rounds. Yeah, I think it's just trying to get the round into the actual chamber. It's caused it to lock up a few times. 2. That's better. So I'll try priming it forwards and prime it backwards, going for the bottom one. Ooh. Okay. Now that's what I mean by the feeder not working occasionally properly, because I held it up. All of the balls didn't exactly load up properly, so this is the common problem with hopper fed blasters. So you have to remember that when you're firing this, you're going to load it, you've got to aim it downwards in order to properly load it. So try again. That's better. So this time we should have a round. We did indeed, and it came back and hit me in the knee again. That's better. We got another can. Should we go for the last one? Yeah. It's a bullseye. And with the firing test out of the way, we've had a look at the Nerf Hyper Rush-40. Well, I got to give it the same praise as I gave to the Mac 100. This thing is a powerhouse. Like a 40-round pistol. And you saw what it did to the cardboard when it, actually fully hit it. I mean, the fact the dent that it punched into it took me by surprise. So, I was originally going to do a video at some point in the future called the pain test, where I was going to test, the varieties of Nerf ammunition against my bare body. Let's just say that this thing has put the fear of God into me. And I think the fear of God is a fair assessment I can put down for this blaster. I mean, granted, this is the second one in the Hyper line that I officially own, with obviously the Mac 100 and the Rush-40 now being in my collection together. Now, I have to say, out of the pair, the 40 clearly hits a lot harder, but that's mostly because obviously it's single shot, and obviously it's spring powered, so obviously the rounds are going to travel a lot further and a lot harder. So I bet if I threw this on a chronograph, it would clearly probably outclass the Mac 100 quite a fair bit. I mean, just how the rounds were firing off and how they bounced back. I mean, don't get me wrong, they were bouncing back quite a bit when I fired off the Mac 100, but this one, I would miss a round, I would hit the wall, and these things would bounce back and they would hit me. And even though they were only hitting my knees, they weren't actually hitting me in the face, so thank goodness for that. Still, it was like a ooh. Do you know what I mean? There was a little jolt from when it actually hit me. So if I was to take a round from this head on, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it leaves a nice bruise. So that's kind of I want to say awesome, but also kind of worrying. Another thing I have to also bring up, which you probably saw in my firing, was the trying to prime the blaster. Almost seemed like a bit of a problem, but that's mostly because now I put the blame to this down to the hopper, obviously, because as I said, this is apparently a 40-round maximum hopper, so you can actually hold a maximum of 40 in it. Although I think 30, which was included, was the more accurate amount, because that's probably the safest amount you could probably load up into this without the risk of it jamming. Because before I even shot that firing, I test fired this a few times, and the first time I tried to fire it, it just did not seem to fire. And that was mostly 2 problems on my part. One, obviously I hadn't primed it all the way back and forwards, so I figured, oh, I must have jammed it. And also the trigger pull. Now, the trigger pull for this blaster is actually quite strong. You have to, it's quite a heavy pull, so you have to really squeeze it all the way in order for it to actually release the tension of the springs and fire the round. So yeah, a lot heavier a pull than I originally realised. And the same goes for the prime. It's got quite a heavy prime, but then again, the power that it does output more than makes up for it. And as I said, which you saw in the thing as well, if you're going to prime this blaster, you don't hold it upwards when you're priming, because you're not going to load a round in. You have to literally aim it downwards, so that way the balls will roll into the hopping feeding mechanism as it's primed, and it will then load the round. Because if you hold it, you know, straight, yeah, you might get one, but if you hold it upwards, it's not going to happen. So that's really the main complaints I can give for this blaster. But other than that, I will say I am very impressed with it. Glad to have it in my arsenal, although I don't know if I would necessarily take this out into a Nerf war. Mostly due to the fact that I'd be worried about who I would be shooting with this, as yeah, I'm probably going to end up hurting them. The same, in a way, goes for the Mach 100. But come on, I mean, just these pair together in my arsenal, a full auto flywheel and a springer. Yeah, these two go well together. There's still one more in the original trio I still have to get my hands on. Maybe in the future I'll be able to get hold of it and add it to what I've already got. But that is for another time. Thank you so much for watching this video alongside any other videos in my series. Please be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell for any future videos that I publish for all of you to enjoy. I hope you enjoyed this one. And with that, I'll see you all in my next Nerf opening video. Laters.